What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It's the Earthmaster here on the live stream with an update video on this Wednesday night, December 21st, 2022. About 8:11 p.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 2.5 on the Earthquake 3D globe up in Alaska. Notice activity still continuing there in Northern California. Things continuing to ramp up there in the West Coast area. Before we jump onto that, kind of want to cover a little bit of activity making a big dip down into the States. I'm talking about a massive Arctic cold air mass coming down right now as we speak. Temperatures up around Montana currently. These are actual current temperatures. Negative 26 around Great Falls, negative 33 Billings. Well, they're kind of used to that weather, right? Well, this Arctic cold mass is going to spill on down into areas around Kansas, Oklahoma, and even Texas here throughout the night and tomorrow, with some brutally cold temperatures across the area. Now, again, these are all feel-like temperatures. Portions of Texas getting down into the single digits, and Oklahoma, Kansas area all going to be in the negative for quite a bit. There's a massive amount of current warnings here on the Storm Prediction Center page for areas around Kansas. Well, wind chill warnings, and this is some serious stuff here in terms of the numbers that they're putting out by the National Weather Service. So not only do we have that massive cold air, but we're talking about some winds as well. Could see wind speeds kicking up pretty significantly, dropping down that wind chill factor to as low as 45 below zero for portions of Kansas here. Wind speeds are going to be pretty significant, gusting as high as about 55 miles per hour. So all that cold, and factor in that wind, and you get some significant wind chill factors out there that a lot of folks are not really used to. Talking about down in Texas as well, looking at 14 degrees or so for tomorrow night. Now that air mass is going to spill over a little bit more down into the south as well. Looks like around Louisiana, Jackson area, and it will head east and bring much more colder air towards the eastern section of the country. That's pretty brutal. Doesn't happen too often like that, but it's not going to last for long. So got a couple days of some brutally cold weather, and then things will start to warm up once again for the folks in that area. But it looks like the cold front right now is right around the Enid area. Expect winds to really ramp up as that cold air mass comes down from the north. So enjoy those temperatures in the 30s and 40s for now. It's going to get a lot colder. All right, looking at the activity here along the west coast, and we're still seeing quite a bit of earthquake activity around Northern California, but not only up here around our 6.4 that struck here yesterday. Has it been yesterday? Yeah. It's been about a day. It feels like it's been longer. Been a long day. But still seeing some activity. Also around the Bay Area. Seeing some movement as well. Now, let me bring up the 2.5 map and above. This shows a little bit more activity here along the west coast than we typically see as far as 2.5 and above. The Bay Area specifically seen a 2.9 and a 3.3 throughout the last 24 hours. One of those just over about a couple hours ago near Union City. We're seeing a little swarm of activity here on the Hayward fault zone. Now this is another dangerous fault system out here that runs through some heavily populated areas. Been a lot of studies on this specific fault, and can't remember the exact percentages here over the next 10 years or so, but I believe it's pretty great to at least see an upper 6 magnitude on that specific fault zone. Been a lot of studies, like I mentioned, and today we're seeing a little bit of activity ramping up on that in that area of the bay. Also, a little bit of movement down here in the Ridgecrest area. Of course, this is filling in from the earthquake activity a couple years ago on July 4th, July 5th, and some movement into Nevada as well. Southern California, extreme Southern California, not seeing a whole lot. Just a little spotty activity here currently. That's been our little quiet zone. Okay, now movement up here around Eureka. This activity been continuing for quite a while. Looking at, just want to show you guys here, looking at the Petrolia station and the Dinsmore station, still showing some activity even within the last few minutes here. This has been ongoing here for a little while. We've had, let's see, 10 earthquakes of 2.5 and above today, and the largest one was a 3.3. Now, let's go back to the 7 days all magnitudes. This will cover the activity there that we've seen early morning yesterday from that 6.4. That's, of course, the largest quake. Following that was a 4.9 just a few minutes afterwards. And we've seen a couple 4s in there as well, but that was during the day of the 6.4 yesterday. So we really haven't seen any 4s today so far, but the activity is still continuing, that's for sure. 148 earthquakes listed up here on the map, and I'm sure there's a lot more than what's being reported on here just by looking at the seismograph stations on any given moment. There's quite a bit. So they will eventually catch up and get caught up. Some of these earthquakes, though, have still not been reviewed. So there's a lot of them. And this one is just an example, 2.4 in the swarming area. It's underneath automatic status. So this has not been reviewed. And the reason why I keep checking these is because these earthquakes are back over here along the Cascadia subduction zone itself at the subduction level. These over here, about the same, still into the southern end of the Cascadia down there. But I'm just kind of curious about this migrational swarm pattern up here towards the surface area. And if these are legit earthquakes, then that could be a little concerning there along the Cascadia megathrust area. So I'm waiting to see if these guys will review them. Either way, a lot of activity, and we can see that migrational activity across Fortuna area, stretching over towards the Coast Range. I'm just going to glance at a couple of these, see if any of these have been... this one's been reviewed, 4.9. And check a couple of these smaller ones. Kind of curious here real quick. Automatic, so there's probably quite a bit they need to catch up on and adjust. And that adjustment there, after they review it, could have an overall location effect. These earthquakes over here could be centered further to the swarming area. And also the depth of the earthquakes could be adjusted as well. Because literally, they're all over the place right now. We got some surface ones, got some deep ones. And most of them, I think, are deeper down there into the subduction zone of the Cascadia. And I'll get some shallow ones in there as well. But it might take them a little while to review all these and get all the information accurate as far as location, depth, and magnitude goes. It's probably a headache right now for those folks, but that's probably their job, right? So activity continuing. West Coast earthquake watch remains in effect, and the reason why is because we have not seen any sufficient activity here to the west. Things are very quiet still out here along the western Pacific, and it's day number 2, day number 3. So we still need to watch the West Coast activity, and we've seen that kind of uptick today with movement around the Bay Area, continued activity up north, and we did have some activity further south here as well. There's a 5.3, but I think there was a few more in this area. Let me check here. Okay, I thought there was a couple more earthquakes down south here along the Baja California region. That may have been yesterday or the day before. But activity, as you can see here on the globe, pretty active along the west coast and areas along the Middle America Trench. And South America has been seeing a little bit of activity as well. Some 2s, some deeper movement into the Peru-Chile Trench. But as you head over here to the western Pacific, only got one earthquake up here around the Curl-Kamchatka Trench. That's going to be that 5.0 listed up here on the map. Somewhat deep. Haven't seen any adjustment yet up here. I'm not for sure what it's going to take to trigger a big earthquake here, but we know this area is under quite a bit of strain. Quite a bit of time has passed since a major rupture So the slip rate is definitely accumulated there in this region. Doesn't take a lot of time for a good amount of pressure to build up here around this trench. Nothing going on across the Mariana Trench, the Philippine Plate here, all pretty quiet as we head down south here into the Kermadec Trench. Looks like the latest one was a 5.0 earlier this afternoon along the segment there of the Kermadec Trench. No sufficient movement, though, in this area either. I was looking at the GeoNet servers, and this is the volcanic drums across the areas of New Zealand, certain areas. And not a whole lot going on. There is a little bit of activity returning to the Taupo supervolcano. That's going to be right here. Very localized to the Taupo area. It's not really showing up too drastically across any other areas, just specifically the Taupo supervolcano region. A couple other smaller earthquakes around this area. Not for certain how you pronounce that one. I'm not going to even attempt it tonight. But this is the area where the little bit of earthquake activity is occurring. And looking at the earthquake map here for New Zealand area, looks like 2 hours ago, 2.7. North Island, looks like another 2.5, 3.3. So definitely a little bit of activity, but we haven't seen, like I mentioned, any large-scale movement along pretty much the entire Western Pacific here. And this area around Indonesia should be showing something, but it's not. We're not seeing hardly anything. Looking at the EMSC model, yes, there's a little bit of earthquake activity. Looks like a couple 2s and 3s. And even, well, USGS, what's going on here? Couple 4s here across the Java Trench, listed by the EMSC. 5.1 up in the China area, it looks like. So there is some movement around the Java Trench, but definitely not significant. And USGS not really showing anything over here. And those are above 4.0 too. So, yeah, they're probably busy, right? Or they may even have the whole week off. I didn't even think about that. Got Christmas coming up here. A lot of people take that week off. Some movement down here in the Mid-Indian Ridge yesterday. That's about it, though. No further activity within that region. There's the earthquake that I pointed out in the globe in China, 5.1. The areas around the Himalayas westward, not showing a whole lot. And looking at the model here with the EMSC reported data, shows looks like a 3.0 coming into the Mediterranean area, and some other smaller quakes in this entire region here. But overall, things kind of mellow in that area. Nothing going on across the Atlantic Ocean. Puerto Rico Trench. Let me see what we got here for this this area. As we zoom in, still getting some activity out here around the Puerto Rico Trench region. These look like they came in today. Latest one was a 3.4 about earlier this evening, 31 kilometers deep. We definitely have been seen swarming up here around the Puerto Rico Trench area and areas to the east here along the subduction interface. So this area is definitely prone to some large, very large damaging earthquakes. So the target right now, if you will, is definitely the west coast downward, adjacent plates. With this teeter-totter effect in full swing, we still got to watch the west coast pretty closely. Hawaii's kind of stuck out there in the middle of it all. 2.5 the latest near Pahala at 33.3. Goodness, there's that number again. Keeps coming up. 33.3 kilometers deep. And I don't think we're seeing anything change on the volcano network here, but we'll just double check it, make sure with Mauna Loa. Zoom in here. See what we have. I like to check these seismograph stations on occasion, and well, when they're working. Right now it looks like that one's offline. That's a little odd. They did have some significant wind. I don't know if it's still ongoing over there. I'm not seeing any earthquake activity on this graph that's working. But man, they had some significant wind. Let me check here real quick. Wind gust. Doesn't look like there's any right now. Let me go to the current time. Just very minimal light wind across the Big Island area with Mauna Loa there, but yeah, nothing major going on. But it looks like one of those seismograph stations are down, probably because of that wind event. I believe it was last night or the night before. Either way, here comes the wind, all that cold air. That is crazy. I couldn't even imagine. We don't get that cold out here in California. In fact, it's 41 degrees here where I'm at right now in the backyard. Man, definitely bundle up. Make sure you have if you have any outside pets, that is not the type of weather to be leaving them outside. Definitely want to bring them in. Keep them nice and cozy inside somehow. Luckily, this isn't like a week-long or month-long event. Just going to be there sticking around for a couple days, and then you'll be out of it. Let's see what we got for Yellowstone. I'm not seeing a whole lot here at all. But there is some activity. I was watching it today across Yellowstone, Lake Yellowstone area, showing some spikes here on the seismograph station, indicating some very small microquake activity. Also over here in Petrolia, showing that same type of event. But those are definitely some earthquakes there around Petrolia, Dinsmore, and the Yellowstone area. No significant swarming though, and for some reason I can't find that swarming that's going on there on the graph anywhere across any of these other ones. But yeah, not a whole lot of activity. We did have one 2-pointer that you guys see there on the graph. Let's see, that was somewhere in Wyoming, I believe. Let's zoom in here. Yeah, a little 2.1 near Kelly. That one was from last night though, so late last night looks like. So I believe there's a little bit newer activity showing up here, but not reported. That's going to be this one right here. Some other earthquake activity, it looks like. Not for sure what those signals are. It looks like they are confined to the northwest corner of the park. It is showing up on quite a few of the seismograph stations here. So something going on. Whether it's deep activity here in this section of Yellowstone National Park, but there's definitely, those don't look like earthquakes. Those look like something else. I'm not 100% certain what they are, but they look legit. Doesn't look like outside interference because they are showing up here, not as strongly, but still showing up on this seismograph station regionally in the area. All right, let's check out space weather here real quick, and then we'll get on with the update. Sunspot activity, obviously still continuing. Looks like AR 3169 turning into view. That's going to be this massive sunspot right here. It's beautiful. It's got a couple companions back behind it, and that will be rotating into Earth view, Earth direction, I should say, in the coming hours and days. There's a slight chance for an M-class flare from that regional sunspot. Current aurora forecast here looks pretty minimal. Not seeing a whole lot of potential up there at the higher latitudes for any type of storming. And what in the world? What's this? Wow. All right, so KP index of 3.33. Goodness. Some know, some don't. Either way, some significance in those numbers. M flare, looks like 30% chance here for M flare possibility, 10% for an X flare. And that should be about it. Still waiting on the other space weather site to get running, but I'm definitely not going to click on it until we get some confirmation there of a secured site, and I'm talking about solarham.net, the site I normally use out here. The current GOES X-ray flux chart, 1 minute data shows some C-flare activity, upper C-flare categories here, but really nothing major over the last couple days. But again, we'll watch those sunspots that are currently turning into view. All right, guys. I hope everyone has a good night. Stay safe out there, and of course, be prepared. A lot of people asking questions about the earthquake activity in Northern California and whatnot. It's it's common, but we know the big one's coming one day. The question is, when? Don't really know. But all I know is when we got that quiet activity along the Western Pacific, that's when things are kicking up out here along the Eastern Pacific areas and certain adjacent plates here. So just be on guard, see how this plays out. Either way, I'm expecting eventually we got to at least see some movement here to the west pretty soon. Looks like it was trying to with some of these 3s and 4s and some activity up in China, but I don't think that's enough really to give the west coast any relief of pressure. All right, guys, stay safe. Have a good night. West Coast earthquake watch remains in effect. We will chat you guys sometime tomorrow. Have a good night.